Well, hello, everybody. My name is Stacy Erdman, and I'm the Digital Preservation Librarian at the University of Arizona. And I apologize for the bright green block. I forgot to turn it clear before I sent this in. So I'm also currently serving as the principal investigator for the Digital Power Peer Assessment Program grant. So I'm joining you today to share some information on this new grant and to share a bit about some intended outcomes for the project. So before I get into specific details about the new program, I wanted to share a little background information on digital power for those who may be unfamiliar, and also to provide some info on where this fits with our previous work. So the Digital Power Project began in 2012 as an Institute of Museum and Library Services funded study on how smaller and lesser resourced organizations could successfully implement digital preservation practices locally. The original grant brought together 5 different colleges and universities in Illinois to carry out the research and testing of a number of digital preservation tools and services. The intention was to test a number of platforms to see how easy they were to implement if an organization lacked technical staff. The project team worked with an advisory board to determine which tools and services to conduct intensive testing on at their local institutions. The team also conducted a deep dive into the numerous available digital preservation tool registries and combined these into a list of tools to create the Power Tool Grid. The tool grid compared the functionality of tools and services in a highly visual way, which made it easier for practitioners to understand which parts of a preservation workflow the tools performed. So aside from the tool grid, the grant had other outputs, including outreach materials and the project's white paper, which summarized all testing and research activities. It also included a day-long workshop that distilled and disseminated research results to other working professionals. The team put on about a half a dozen of these workshops for free, and the response was so encouraging that NIU applied for a grant from the NEH to continue doing them. And that grant was successfully awarded, and the team put on several dozen more free workshops around the US between 2015 and 2017. The grant also provided Power with money to fund travel scholarships to those who had financial needs. Feedback from workshop attendees indicated that people desired a longer form, more intensive workshop with even more time for hands-on technical training. So the Power team crafted a grant proposal to the IMLS for a series of 2-day-long professional institutes. That grant was awarded in 2017 and allowed the team to put on 5 institutes around the US. The institutes combined a mix of classroom instruction, discussion, group activities, interactive technical training, direct interaction with instructors, and social time. All attendees were also required to complete a written document called a Power Plan. This plan gently introduced them to basic assessment concepts and procedures, such as how to use the NDSA levels of preservation. All attendees received a half-hour one-on-one consultation with an instructor to discuss their plans. During the consultation, the instructor helped the attendees brainstorm both short and long-term goals for local digital preservation activities. Participants later reported back to Power staff that they were able to make significant progress with their digital preservation activities due to their participation in the Institute because of the action-oriented nature of these Power plans. Power took a bit of a break during the early pandemic, but was recently awarded 2 new grants, one to continue putting on more Institute training events, and the second is the peer assessment program, which I'm here to discuss. So the peer assessment program really came about directly as a result of the success of the Power plans deployed in the institutes. We were also puzzling with the question of how to ensure that the training that we provide has any lasting effects. We would perform follow-ups with institute attendees for evaluative purposes, but we really had no way to monitor their activities beyond like a 6-month post-attendance survey. So the solution to this seemed to be to design a longer-term training program so that we could provide the necessary resources and support for participants as they fully assess their digital collections and make and deploy a plan for improving their stewardship. Each training phase of the program runs for roughly 1 year and includes some formal and informal curricular components. We provide an introduction to digital preservation concepts, an introduction to assessment practices and procedures, and as also case study presentations. We also provide access to a number of technology demos and walkthroughs. We will have 36 total participants in the program spread across the 2 training phases. Each training phase has 3 small cohorts of 6 members, each led by a cohort facilitator. Participants are paid a $3,000 stipend to participate in and complete the training. Their employers also each receive a small $870 technology startup fee, which is intended to be spent on purchases that help participants implement their assessment plans. So this could be for computer hardware or software, subscriptions, further training, or basically anything they can tie to creating or improving a digital preservation program. So this is the current rough timeline for the grant that shows some of the major activities that have taken place, as well as upcoming activities. I want to point out that this grant was initially supposed to run from 2021 to 2024. However, I changed jobs last year and I had to go through the rather arduous process of transferring a grant between 2 different universities. So I was given the chance to ask for a 1-year extension. So we adjusted our timelines to accommodate that. The project formally kicked off in August 2021 with curriculum development and project planning work. We began recruiting participants for the first training phase that fall. We began holding our first training phase with our cohort orientation. The cohorts then began holding monthly meetings with facilitators coaching participants through the formal curriculum pieces. The facilitators then paired up the members of their cohorts and helped the pairs get started on their peer assessment projects. The facilitators then met with the pairs throughout as they wrote up their reports. The facilitators also worked with each of their cohort members individually to set short and long-term implementation goals. These are to be drawn directly from the recommendations they make within their assessment reports. The facilitator also worked with the participants on deciding the best way to utilize their tech startup fees to best support these goals. Participants then entered the implementation phase of the program, where they attempted to implement some of their shorter term goals with the support of their partner, cohort, and facilitator. The implementation goals can be technical in nature, such as learning a new piece of software, or they could be actions related to building awareness of digital preservation at their workplace or educating coworkers. They could also be in other areas such as policy writing, creating workflows, grant writing, composing documentation, or literally any other activity which could help create and sustain a preservation initiative. So phase 1 is currently wrapping up this month, which is exciting. 2 of our cohorts have already held their final project showcase events, and the 3rd is putting theirs on in early June. Participants are starting to hand in their finalized power plans, which contain their case studies, assessment reports, and details on goal implementation. The summer project staff will work with our evaluation consultant to evaluate the program's successes and failures. The evaluator will meet with a small focus group of participants and review evaluations from the entire training phase. Project staff will then make improvements to the schedule, curriculum, and program structure as necessary. Phase 2 participants will be recruited this fall, and then the second training phase will kick off in January and run for a year. After the second training phase concludes, then project staff will evaluate that group and begin writing the final white paper for the project. We'll also edit and compile the participants' case studies for publication in a final volume to the IMLS. And this is the roster of project staff right now. So I'm managing the project with the assistance of Jamie Schumacher, who manages the digital power grants coming from NIU, and Francis Harrell from Myriad Consulting. And we have 6 amazing cohort facilitators who have either been involved in a previous power project or who have attended our training and put it to good use. So right now, Alexis Braun-Marks, Sam Meister, and Nick Krabenhoft have served as phase 1 facilitators. Danielle Spalinka, Carol Kussman, and Kyle Hinke will serve in these roles for phase 2. And here's our full list of our current 18 participants and the cohorts that they're a part of. So these individuals are spread across 6 time zones, which makes things very challenging, and represent a variety of organizations. The majority are smaller organizations who have little or no digital preservation infrastructure in place. You'll also see on the right side a note about our community of practice cohort sponsor organizations. So these sponsors serve a vital role in the project because they help connect our team directly with the individuals who are most in need of the training. The sponsor organizations help us circulate our call for applications, and then they work with us to review those applications that we receive that come from their membership. They help us with selection decisions as needed and help publicize the project in their local areas. For phase one, our cohort sponsor orgs are Northwest Archivists, Inc., the Association of Hawaii Archivists, and Amigos Library Services. So for phase two, our cohort sponsors are the Black Metropolis Research Consortium in Chicago and the Sustainable Heritage Network, which serves tribal libraries and archives. We haven't selected a third sponsor organization yet, and I'm a new member of CIMA, so if there seems to be any interest in this group, I'd be happy to talk to someone about setting us up for that too. So we'll begin looking for phase two participants this fall, and we'll follow the same process that we did for phase one. If we can't find 18 applicants from those 3 organizations, then we'll do a recruitment from the general population. So the program participants are working with 3 different assessment tools as part of the training. The first is the NDSA levels of preservation, which is represented on this slide as this color-coded bingo looking card. This assessment has you score your organization's current state in 5 different functional areas: storage, integrity, control, metadata, and content. This model largely focuses on technical issues, but is easily understood and relatively quick to complete. The second tool they're working with is the Digital Preservation Coalition's Rapid Assessment Model, aka DPC-RAM. And that model has you rank various organizational and service capabilities on a scale of 1 to 4. So that model takes a slightly more holistic view, looking at other equally important parts of performing digital preservation work. The final framework they're using is the Digital Preservation Peer Assessment Handbook, which was produced by the Northeast Document Conservation Center. And that model can best be thought of as more of a longer form combined version of the other 2 assessment tools. It provides components that cover technology, organizational issues, and resourcing. So we tried to pick assessment tools that were accessible for those who are just getting started with digital preservation work or those who are in the most nascent stages. There are, of course, more advanced tools and auditing frameworks, such as Core Trust Seal, the Trusted Digital Repository Checklist, and the Data Seal of Approval. These tools are just less user-friendly and not particularly useful for novices who are just getting started and trying to gain confidence in their skills. So we gave all the participants a pre-test at the start of the program to help us understand their baseline knowledge in several areas. We thought this would help us tailor their training and also be able to measure how much knowledge overall is gained by participating in the program. So as you can see in this pie chart, nearly 58% of our participants have 0 experience working with digital preservation tools and services. Only 10% had any relevant working experience in this area. And we also asked them about existing workflows that contain a digital preservation function. Just around half had a workflow covering some aspect of preservation defined liberally. And we also asked them about their knowledge and confidence surrounding digital preservation assessment tools. Only 10% had performed a basic self-assessment, such as ranking their organization on the levels chart. So everyone else in the program was completely unfamiliar or lacked any practical experience with those tools. So all of these answers demonstrate that we selected individuals who undoubtedly make good use of this training. We designed the program to take novice professionals and equip them with a baseline of knowledge so that they have the confidence going forward to make informed decisions about the full life cycle of their digital collections. So to quickly wrap up, I just want to say a few things about intended outcomes for the project. So obviously we're still in early days with the training until we've been able to review everyone's evaluations this summer and their finalized power plans. We're only guessing what sort of conclusions they're reaching. However, we do have some intended outcomes, some areas that we want to explore in the white paper. So one of the big questions we want to try to answer is this program reproducible? One of my hopes was that we could create enough guidance so that a professional organization such as SAA could sponsor something similar for their members. So would this program work without the funding incentives? Would it work if we eliminated the cohorts and just focused it around pairs? Some professional organizations have structured mentorship programs. So there's not necessarily a reason that a peer-led program such as this couldn't be successful. We also wanted to see what's to be gained by comparing the 3 assessment tools being utilized. Are the frameworks adequate? Are they missing anything? Further, will an analysis reveal that there are needs for additional assessment tools and mechanisms that we're currently lacking, perhaps something specifically targeted at novices? We also hope that the assessment reports and participant feedback will help us draw some larger conclusions about common gaps in digital stewardship practices and impediments to progress experienced by our practitioners. These sorts of generalizations can be helpful for those who create educational offerings for the field. And this analysis could be very helpful for those who are creating tools, softwares, and systems for practitioners to use. We're also hoping that the collaborative aspects of the program can lead to other ways we can create and grow peer support initiatives in the field, even if they aren't connected to participating in a formalized training program. We also hope to demonstrate the spectrum of maintenance activities that lead to digital preservation programmatic maturity, as well as the value of collaborative approaches when defining progress in this realm. We want to demonstrate that even small investments can help smaller institutions make big steps towards good practice. And that's all.